Welcome back into the Sports Source, this segment of our show brought to you by Safety Systems. And when it comes to audio video needs in your home entertainment, Safety Systems and former Vol J.J. Surla should be your first call. Take a look at this summer special that they have put together, the Sports Source Summer Special. That is an unbeatable deal. You're not going to go anywhere in town, find a deal like that, all equipment, all installation for that price tag. It's insane. But you might want something even bigger, even better. Football season is coming up. Don't spend the rest of the fall complaining about your man cave setup. You may want a home theater system, and you might be able to talk the wife into doing it. Safety Systems can help you get there with their pricing and their tremendous customer service. All right, guys. Everybody and their brother says Tennessee will and should compete in the East. Compete in the East. ESPN's Kirk Herbstreit on Friday, I think, tweeted out that he expects Tennessee to compete in the East with Georgia and Missouri. Here's my question. What does compete mean? Because I think you could define it in a number of ways. Let's take a look over at the Safety Systems drawing board. What I got there, along the top row, 2014, 13, and 12. That's the 3 years of the SEC East standings, top 3 teams, since you've gone to a 14-team league. The bottom list, that was back those last 3 years when you were just a 12-team league and a 6-team division. What you see is Tennessee was picked for second place, all right? Well, last year that would have meant going 6-2. The year before it would have meant going 6-2. The year before it would have been 7-1 or 6-2. 6-2. Then you go back and you had a down year in 2010. 2009, 4-4 Tennessee actually in there ahead of Georgia. They tied, but they were ahead of Georgia in my mind because they beat them. So, when you look at that, 6-2, 7-1. Is that what we're talking about when Tennessee's picked second and competing in the East? Because that's a heck of a jump from a team that went 3-5 last year. If we're saying Tennessee has to go 3 games better or 4 games better in the SEC this year, I got to tell you, I don't see that. I don't see anything close to that. How do you define compete? Is it by those numbers? Is it how close you play in big games? How do you do it?
It's the compete to me is the loosest of definitions. You talk about moving the goal line. Yeah, to me it just means you're in the conversation. That's it. That's all it means to me.
So you're not going to define it. It's just
I have more of a definition. Go ahead, Chuck.
Okay.
My definition is you're still in contention for the division championship in late October or early November. Okay. And that's kind of the way I look at it.
Okay.
I think I also look at it like this. If Georgia's 7-1 and you're 4-4, you didn't compete. If you're within a game of Georgia, then you're competing for it.
Or Missouri, who keeps.
Or Missouri,
really.
Missouri, Bob's team, Missouri. But if you're hanging in there and you're within a game of whoever's winning it, but again, if somebody goes 7-1 and you're 4-4, you didn't compete for it.
Okay, so if you're Tennessee, let me put it to you this way then.
Even if you finish second.
Let's say Georgia finishes 7-1, Tennessee finishes 5-3, and they're second in the East. They've improved by 2 games, but they were 2 games behind Georgia. Is that competing?
I think that would be considered competing.
But
That's close.
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, if you lose
I'm
to
kneeling
Georgia,
Jimmy here.
well, see, if you're 2 games back with 2 to play,
Then you're still,
then you're in the hunt.
because
But
Georgia can lose, you can win.
Yeah.
It's
But if
even
you're 2
Steven.
games back and Georgia was one of your losses.
then you're not.
Yeah.
So in other words, we could sit here and they're going to be, that's my point is, this definition, well, go ahead. I'll let you define it. You didn't define it yet. What's your definition?
I mean, I was just going to define it. I'm very close to what Jimmy says. But then you get into who did you lose to? How? I mean, you get into 1,000 different
Were you
things.
competitive? Yeah.
But I'm with Jimmy. If you're 3 games back, you weren't competitive. If you're 2 games back, how did you lose? How did you end up? So it's an undefinable term.
I'll know it when I see it.
Exactly. There you go.
Here's the thinking though, and this is why I think this was the point of this exercise, was just to show that this is going to be a moving target all year long, and what you're going to find is at the end of the year, those people who are kind of in the Butch Jones camp are going to say, yeah, they probably if they finish 5-3 and Georgia's 7-1. The people in the Jones camp will say, yeah, that was competitive. The people who don't get in the Jones boat, it's a reason for them to say, no, you weren't competing. I just think that the compete in the East is going to be a different standard depending on whether or not folks are in the Jones camp or not. And I think people have already made up their minds, a lot of people. It's hard to change their minds. You go around town, you look on the message boards, you talk to some people, it's like, I don't believe in Butch Jones. Well, if you don't believe in Butch Jones at this point, I don't think you're going to.
Right.
So I think this is an interesting deal. We'll see how it's defined all year long. All right, when we come back, interesting comments from Butch Jones, Kevin Sumlin. Were they making excuses or talking reality? Coming back on the Sports Source.
Follow the Sports Source online at sportsource.tv and on Twitter at SportsSourceTV.